No matter how small or large you decide to make your lighting rig, whether you're putting together a system for a mobile or nightclub setup, whether you're spinning in front of 500 people or spinning live on stage in front of 40,000 people, lighting is an essential ingredient for getting the party started and getting it started right. A huge portion of the ambience at concerts and venues is contributed by the lighting setup. For mobile DJs, it's easy to start your own portable system with a simple light stand like the American DJ LTS6. If you need to hang more of your favorite lighting effects, you can move up to ProSound's very own TSP Portable Lighting Truss. They're easy to set up, and you'll be providing your client with a great service by providing that club light, definitely a party going on here type of vibe, which keeps them happy, while you earn more profits. Here's something to think about for all the mobile DJs and nightclub jocks who control the sound and lighting systems simultaneously. The name of the game is backup, and whether you build your own DJ survival kit or we custom configure one for you, here's the top 20 items you should never arrive at your gig without. The first item on the list is stage tape. This will prevent your partygoers from tripping on your extension cables, and it works great on carpet or tile. Peel it off when you're done and you'll find it doesn't leave a sticky residue on the floors or your cables. It's truly great stuff. Next on the list is Velcro or plastic zip ties. These will not only help you wrap your cables after the gig to prevent damage due to tangling, but it will also give your DJ system and lighting rig a neat and professional appearance. Next on the list are audio adapters, and you want to choose as many varied types of audio adapters that you possibly can. It's truly unbelievable how many times these little guys will save you in a pinch. Always bring extra audio cables. Make sure you have backup audio, patch, and speaker cables ready at all times. Next on the list, we've got extra fuses and extra bulbs. You know, your party suddenly becomes half the party it was when a bulb or fuse blows out, but by having these on standby and replacing them quickly, you can keep the crowd jumping. A simple pocket knife is a truly indispensable tool for tons of emergency applications, not to mention cracking a cold one after the show. Extra fog juice, a mobile DJ staple. Always bring an extra quart. Next on the list, you want to make sure that you have lens cleaners for your CD players, because if the part that plays the music is non-operational, guess what? As a DJ, so are you. And if you're playing on vinyl, make sure you have extra needles. I've heard nothing but the worst DJ horror stories on this one. Without backup headphones, queuing would be impossible if your DJ mixer has split queuing. Plus, most DJs will tell you that your headphones always break when you need them the most. Bring a flashlight. It makes perfect sense as most of your time as a DJ is spent in low light conditions or at night. Enough said. As a DJ, your music library is a commodity to you. Protect those precious 12-inch grooves with the best anti-static cleaner available. Groove Glide. It's amazing how much stuff it pulls off a record that looks clean. Or if you spin exclusively on CDs, make sure you have some disc washer handy. Make sure to bring extra lighting clamps. It never hurts to be prepared. Your DJ survival kit should also contain a backup crossfader because you won't be able to run down to the grocery store and pick one of these bad boys up. You'll either have to use your up and down faders for the rest of the night or put on a mixtape. They can be replaced easily before anyone notices by unscrewing the old one and clipping in a new one. Extension cords and power strips, gotta have them. And ground lifters, which will keep you from having to rip out the ground pin on expensive extension or equipment power cables, when to your surprise, there's only 2 holes to plug into. Make sure you pack a screwdriver kit. It never fails. You'll need them sooner or later. If you spin on turntables, make sure you bring the smaller jeweler-sized screwdrivers. This will help you put the cartridges onto the head shell. Make sure to bring a backup microphone. These things are notorious for disappearing at parties. Keep a backup close and the original closer. And finally, some of the best advice you can get, a backup DJ system is your best friend. You could choose a simple backup system like Gemini's Disco Mix Package or Newmark's Mix Station. In the event of any kind of system failure except a power blackout, a backup system will mean the difference between you getting paid or not getting paid. By having your DJ emergency survival kit handy at all times, you'll be ready for virtually any DJ emergency that comes your way. A question we receive on a regular basis is, how do I hook up my turntables and adjust them to the optimum level settings for scratching? If your turntable is equipped with a voltage selector, you'll first want to set it to 110, the American standard voltage. Next, we'll hook up the cartridge to the head shell, in this case a Stanton 500 AL, making sure all of the color terminals on the head shell match the colors on the cartridge. You'll also notice that on the top of the cartridge where the screws go in, that they're slotted. This is to allow the cartridge to be set to your own personal tastes. You can move it forward or towards the back of the head shell, but most turntablists find it works best to align the cartridge flush with the tip of the head shell. We'll then tighten the cartridge down. Now, if you want more groove traction, you can also use a Concord style cartridge, which some DJs prefer. It's kind of nice that they're all one piece, but I think that 500 ALs and similar cartridges are the best to train on, because if you can learn to scratch on these, you can scratch using any cartridges. Next, we'll mount the head shell and cartridge assembly onto the tone arm by twisting this ring counterclockwise until it's snug but not over tightened. We'll then apply the tone arm weight to the tone arm, turning it counterclockwise. First, we'll balance the tone arm to what's called a 0 point. What we're looking for here is to have the tone arm perfectly and levelly suspended without touching anything. Once we've accomplished this, we'll go ahead and add more weight to the tone arm so that it drops on the record smoothly. I always like to use the lever to check this initially. It should drop down something like this. Now, most scratch DJs set the tone arm weight by aligning it with this little ridge to about 3 to 3.5 grams. Next, we'll unlock what's called the gimbal suspension on the 1200. Once it's unlocked, you'll see the entire arm assembly can be moved up or down accordingly, and most scratch DJs will also set the arm height to 0, which is lined up with this little gauge you see here. Once having that set, we'll go ahead and lock the tone arm height back down with the lock mechanism. The tone arm will now stay perfectly down. The last in the optimum scratch settings is to set the anti-skate to the max, which is 3. The anti-skate function keeps your tone arm from moving back and forth erratically while riding the groove. Next, we'll hook up our turntable to our mixer. The first of these connections are the ground wires, which will eliminate any buzzing and humming sounds coming from an AC source through the turntables. Every DJ mixer has these ground terminals. Next, we'll hook up the turntables to the phono input, and don't use the line inputs for turntables because they don't have the special phono preamps that are built into a phono input. Therefore, they won't be heard through a line input even if they're connected. We'll then hook the master outs to our audio system. Make sure the right inputs are always red and the left are always white. This is called being in phase, and you'll know if you're not in phase if your sound system sounds kind of flangey. The last is to hook up the mixer's AC adapter, plug it into an AC outlet, and that's it. And now let's talk about matching the right power amplifier to a set of loudspeakers. It's actually not quite as difficult as one might think, but you do need to understand a few basic principles. First off, a lot of people ask, what's the difference between an 8 ohm and a 4 ohm cabinet? Well, basically 90% of the time, an 8 ohm cabinet has one woofer and a tweeter and sometimes an additional horn. When it comes to 4 ohm cabinets, 90% of the time they have 2 woofers. Sounds easy enough, right? So once you've determined the rating of your loudspeaker in ohms, you need to ask yourself 3 key questions in matching an amplifier to a set of loudspeakers. Number 1, do you plan to run the amplifier in stereo or mono-bridged operation? What's the difference? Well, most power amplifiers actually carry more power in mono-bridged operation, but stereo operation has better sound separation. Now, sound separation is important when you're playing at indoor venues such as nightclubs or ballrooms, but it's not quite as apparent if you're playing at outdoor functions such as festivals or parties that are being held outside. So use your best judgment in the way that you want to operate your amplifier. Second of all, you want to make sure you know the difference between peak and program ratings. Program ratings, or continuous ratings as they're also known, represent the power handling capabilities of a speaker to run at continuous volume levels. Peak, on the other hand, is a measurement of wattage that the speaker can take before it actually blows out. And the third and most important principle is the easiest way to blow speakers is actually to underpower them. An amplifier is basically an electricity engine pushing current to the speakers to run them. So it's a good rule of thumb to always make sure that you're about 1 to 200 watts per channel or mono bridged operation over the power requirement for each loudspeaker to ensure system high performance. By doing this, you'll get the best and cleanest sound possible without overworking your amplifier, which will save you money in the long run and give you the best sound possible. For instance, let's say you had a speaker that was rated at 300 watts program or continuous power at 8 ohms. I would recommend an amp that was 3 to 500 watts per channel at 8 ohms operation for stereo, or about 6 to 900 watts total in mono bridged. Let's do another one. Let's say we had a speaker that was rated at 500 watts program power at 8 ohms. You could definitely rest assured that you've got the right tool for the job if you had an amplifier that was between 5 to 700 watts per channel at 8 ohms stereo, or if you're running in mono bridged operation, between 1000 to 1300 watts. So by actually making sure that you're about 1 to 200 watts over the power requirements for a loudspeaker, you can ensure that your system will operate at its highest performance and last you practically a lifetime. Now I'm going to show you how to hook up a complete mobile DJ rig complete with a simple lights show. This particular system is based on CD players, and with these 15-inch two-way speakers mounted on speaker stands, you'll be able to rock a party for about 200 people. Most mobile DJs utilize exclusively CDs for ease of use and portability. For mobile DJs using CDs, life is made easier by using view packs to minimize the weight factor. As a matter of fact, in this small 300 CD case, with the view packs, you can fit nearly 4,100 music titles in a very small space. In this particular case, for example, you see the first row is all alphabetically indexed albums, and the second two rows are all compilation CDs categorized by genre. Knowing your intended market as a mobile DJ is key to organizing and indexing your library. No two DJs will categorize their music exactly alike, but with careful planning, you can carry less and have more songs available at hand that you'll actually play. So now that we've got the music hooked up, let's move on to our system. We'll first start off by assembling the lighting truss and running the extension cord and relay pack control cable to the top of it. You'll need a ladder for this. Next, we'll install the bulbs into our lighting effects. Be sure never to touch the bulbs with your bare fingers, because the oils on your skin will actually cause the bulbs to blow out prematurely. Instead, use a piece of cloth, plastic, or the spongy insert that comes with the bulbs in their box. Your bulbs will last you much longer this way. Once we've got that done, we'll put the lighting fixture back together. And it's on to our next step, hanging the lighting effects. I'm using a simple 1.5-inch O-clamp to affix each of these lights to the truss assembly. Next, we'll hook up the relay pack to an unused corner of the truss. All I have to do is use the control cable pictured here, which I actually already ran up the truss, to act as the interface between the relay pack and the controller. And this actually saves me from having to run bulky extension cords for each lighting effect down the section of truss. All I need to do is just use one control cable. As you can see, I've plugged the aggressor effect into channel 1 of the relay pack and the vertigo effect into channel 8. Now, from the controller that sits next to my DJ setup, I'll be able to turn them on or off at will. You can also set the controller to latch, which runs the lighting effects continuously, and you can even set the latch to a timer that automatically switches back and forth in 10-minute increments, which is recommended by the manufacturer to prolong the life of the fixture itself by allowing the light time to cool between what is called a duty cycle, or recommended running time. Now you can plug in your fog machine to warm it up as you continue to hook up the rest of your sound system. Now we'll begin hooking up the sound system, starting with, of course, plugging everything in. We'll then hook a pair of stereo RCA cables to the stereo outputs of our first CD player into the mixer where you see it labeled Line 1. Never use the inputs labeled phono for CD players because it'll give you a distorted sounding signal due to the phono inputs built-in preamps. Next will come from the stereo outputs of our second CD player into the inputs on the mixer labeled Line 2. Now here's something I highly recommend for your sound system. From the record out of the mixer, I'm going to go into a CD recorder. And recording your own DJ performances is a great way to constantly hone and evolve your DJ skills as well as create cool mobile DJ demos. Next, I'll go from the main outputs of the DJ mixer using XLR cables and going into the input of the power amplifier. Now it's time to hook up the speakers. I'll be using a 25-foot pair of MDP to 1/4-inch cables for this. First, attach the MDP side to the amplifier's binding posts. Then, simply attach the 1/4-inch side into the speaker input. And now we're ready to start up our DJ system, but not before making sure all the levels on the mixer are set to 0. After carefully checking this, turn the mixer on. Now before turning on the power amplifier, also make sure that the gain knobs are set to 0. If you overlook any of these 2 steps, you can easily send out a volume spike that could blow your speakers, not to mention give anyone in close proximity to your sound system a near heart attack with a sudden volume jump. Now it's completely safe to turn on the power amplifier and calibrate the audio system. Start by turning the amplifier's gain knobs up 1 increment. Now, with a loop playing from my CD player, I'll slowly bring up my audio levels. Now pay special attention to the LEDs on the amplifier and on the mixer. Now what you're trying to do is get the mixer and the amplifier's LED displays to register at near peak settings without clipping, which will cause distortion. So when setting up your own system, pay special attention to the sound coming from the speakers as you're watching the LED segments on the mixer and the amp. By doing this, you'll get the best and cleanest sound possible. I can give it just a little bit more on the power amp. All you got to do now is throw out a little fog from the fog machine to set that party vibe, and you're ready to rock the crowd. If you'd like to learn more about any particular subject in the vast world of DJ products, check out these selections from the DJ video library available exclusively at Pro Sound and Stage Lighting. Are you looking for the hottest lighting effects to add that distinct vibe to your next event? If so, you'll definitely want to pick up a copy of Pro Sound and Stage Lighting's 2001 lighting demonstration video. Here you'll see over 100 lighting effects covering lasers, intelligent lighting, mood lighting, and disco effects. From scratching and mixing to beat matching, this video tutorial has got you covered. Join turntablist DJ E, Jace Solo, Richard Spider-Bonin, and USA champion P-Trix on a journey on the wheels of steel. Discover for yourself the techniques and inside tips that'll have you scratching like a champ in no time. Mixing and scratching without vinyl will help you discover today's hottest digital DJ tools through killer demos with DJ Davey Dave, One Fat DJ, and DJ Skills. Great for mobile and nightclub jocks or anyone wanting to stay on the cutting edge of DJ technology. So you want to make beats? Finally, a video tutorial that documents the mysteries and inner workings of producing urban electronic music. Join me on a tour using drum machines, samplers, sequencers, keyboards, computers, and more. You'll learn how to create today's hot beats right in your own home. An excellent tool for beginners that want to get the most out of their studio tracks or discover where to get sounds, or anyone wanting to know more about electronic music production. Informative interviews include Super Sacco, DJ Jam, Robert Moog, and Herbie Hancock. If you're ready to take it to the next level as a DJ producer, you'll love Remix Mastery 2001. This video takes you through a 5-part method that will teach you how to complete a remix. Also shown are hot tips on sampling, MIDI, and an overview of today's hottest remix tools. Get great advice in interviews, including Tony B, Mixmaster Mike, and DJ Swamp on the art of remixing. A must-see video for DJs making the transition into music production. Got any questions for us? We'd love to help you. Give us a call at 1-800-945-9300 or email us online at www.pssl.com. Until next time, this is Richard Spider-Bonin signing off for Pro Sound and Stage Lighting.